you want to call it. So John Brakey, go ahead, please, and then Ray Lutz, fill us in. And I do want to remind everybody, as we announced earlier, that this morning, Jesse Jackson and Reverend William Barber were arrested in the Phoenix office of Senator Kristen Sinema. So we can talk about that, but let's deal with the audit now. John, the great godfather of the Arizona audit, tell us about it.
Well, it's been an incredible experience. And I just want to say, Lulu, I follow what you're doing in New York. Thank you so much. It's always good to know that there's others out there on the front lines. I also want to send out to Steve for coming into Arizona a couple of times and working with me and getting him inside and close. Also to Benny Smith, who came in and spent some time with us. Because it was constantly to make sure that I wasn't getting Stockholm syndrome. I had an obligation working so close with Ken Bennett, who is a fine human being. We work very closely together. Him and me have been in the same foxhole for several months, protecting each other's back, fighting for transparency, fighting to get at the results and to figure out who the heck are these people we're working with. And then to watch everything that went down, Ken has turned into be a very big ally, okay? And I hope he joins my board of directors of Audit USA. I hope that he runs for Secretary of State. I hope he gets that position back. I hope that he becomes the president of the United States Secretary of State's Association because he's got an important message. The message is elections aren't any good unless they're transparent, trackable, and publicly verified. The message that we want to get out is that the actual act of voting is the secret process. Counting is a public process, okay? And we see the vision very well, and it's been a great opportunity for me to go into another tribe. I want you to know I was scared when I first went into this thing. And who these people are, and then to figure out who are the real people there because they want to know if they have a functioning democracy. These people are like what you and me were, Harvey and Lulu and others back in 2000 or 2004 when we fell down this rabbit hole. We are the ones that have the knowledge and an obligation to reach out to our brothers and sisters on the right and help them understand that it's better to understand than to be understood as a person who's manipulated by a person with an orange face.
Basically,
it's incredible. Go ahead. I'll let you jump in.
So what we're seeing in Arizona is that essentially it's been characterized as a war between the Trump Senate, which is Republican, and the Board of Elections, which is Republican.
That's right. And that's an important thing you just mentioned. Now, I'm going to say I have my conspiracy theories, okay? And I don't think there was any fraud in the presidential and Senate. And the stuff that we're looking at with Larry Moore, Clear Ballot, and Benny White proves that. It proves that there was an effect by John McCain's wife and also Senator Jeff Flake. And all those statistics shake out, just like Steve has been writing about if you follow that. But I think the biggest statistic is that 78% of the Republicans in the state of Arizona think it was stolen. It was a very super close election. It was only like 10,000. That's 0.3%. I think Ray has gone into that. And I think that the leadership, mainly Fan and Bennett, went into this thing because they have an obligation to their constituents, which I thank Fan for doing that. I wish Democrats in 2004 in Arizona would have stood up with us election integrity folks back then and looked into it rather than making me, runner-up for Democrat of the Year in 2005. I'd rather see results. And now that in Arizona, it's very clearly that we do have Republicans and Democrats, and the whole country should be concerned about elections. And we do need audits. Like I said, elections aren't any good unless they're transparent, trackable, and publicly verified using simple audit systems that Ray Lutz has developed with us and working separately but in harmony. It's amazing what possibly good that can come out of this. And I urge other people to reach out to the right and listen, and then help guide them and make them understand that it's not good to be understood as an idiot who follows a person with an orange face. Now, you can't say it that way, but you can know that and help them understand, because a lot of them are our brothers and sisters. It's easier for me to deal with these folks up there than it was to deal with my own brother and sister who have really gone QAnon.
Okay. Joel Siegel, did you want to jump in here real quick?
Yeah. Hey, John, how you doing, man?
Good, my friend. Good to be back.
Good to see you. So I just want to read you a paragraph, and then I'm going to ask you a question. A Georgia judge last week awarded a group the chance to review mail ballots in a large Georgia county that includes Atlanta, i.e. Black people. I just put that in there. Officials in a rural Michigan county on Tuesday debated a review of their voting machines. A similar debate has caused sharp divisions in a New Hampshire town. In some cases, the efforts have been inspired by an audit of the vote in Arizona's Maricopa County. Here's the question. So former Undersecretary of State Robert Wilson last week said he predicted that other states would replicate what happened in Arizona. And in other words, if we're going to have a full theft of democracy and a march to authoritarianism, what a great way to do it by saying, oh, you know what, even though we don't know about any possible fraud, we'll just go ahead and do a recount anyway. And from a legal point of view, and we have a lot of lawyers here, why is it that you can just, without any legal standing or any proof, call for a recount? Where does Congress come in? Where does the Justice Department come in? Where does the Attorney General come in? Why is this being allowed to happen? And could this not lead to an authoritarian takeover by the right wing in certain states, where if they have enough of electoral college votes, they can get another Trump in?
John Brakey?
You're absolutely right. And I agree with what you're saying. I did not initiate this audit, but I went to it because I knew I could have an effect. I knew that I could influence good people out of group think. And that's what it's about. Doing nothing is not an option. It's not a solution. It is being able to go ahead and see an opportunity and take advantage of it, and with respect, deal with them that way and help them understand. This thing will end as what we said in the beginning it would be. We're not going to let Doug, Anon, Logan of Cyber Ninjas or these other clowns take this thing over. It took a lot of patient work for me and Ray and Steve and others to get involved and to help them get where they are now, that we just caused a revolt, working with other good Republicans. There are some good ones out there.
Well, you know what?
There's a lot of them who are following an authoritarian leader. We have to
John?
help them understand and break up the group think.
I think what needs to happen is that there needs to be a definitive multi-state handbook so that in 2022, we can be very comfortable with people who are demanding audits, because we'll know how to do them. I mean, that's the point. Audit should not be a dirty word. It should be something that we welcome and that we know how to do. Art Levine, I know you've done a lot of writing on this.
But if I could just say one thing to Joel, is if I could say, Joel, thank you for that question. Very important question. And because, you know, I want people to understand what was our motives, what did we are trying to achieve and still doing.
Okay, let's do Art Levine and then Ruth Strauss, and then we'll go to Ray Lutz.
Yeah.
Art, did you want to say something?
As John and Ray know from my very disturbed and alarmed comments in the listserv that Ray runs, Election Integrity, I did want to ask, I'm still twofold, I guess. One is, since the appointing of, first of all, the appointing of cyber ninjas at the very beginning was a clear sign of bad intention, since it was very, very well known that this guy was all in on conspiracy thinking and had already publicly declared his views and had no background or experience in election reviews before. So the critique that those of us have had and it's been reinforced by my reading of the investigative journalism and books like American Fascism. This audit is sent as run and conceived. So Ken Bennett may be a person of honor, but he was responding to the general political pressure in the Republican Party and base that the election was stolen. And the act from the very beginning of appointing cyber ninjas and in any way serving as a consultant, showing up at press releases, at press conferences, being the informal spokesperson to explain things, as John often was and is, gave it needless credibility and was basically furthering what is a wide-ranging attempt to promote what amounts to competitive authoritarianism by 2025. This is part of the plan. So I never understood why from the very beginning, since Cyber Ninjas was so manifestly biased, unqualified, and linked to the very worst conspiracism of the GOP, why you got involved with them to begin with.
Okay,
Well,
that's
I thought I explained is that what doing nothing's not an option. Do you think I could have stopped it from happening? I did not let them call me a Democrat. If they had to prefer me as a progressive. And I always pointed out that I wasn't there as a progressive Democrat either. I am a consultant to Ken Bennett. And by the way, Ken did not hire these people. He came in, he drafted me just after he got in. I don't think the progress that we have wouldn't been made without having Ken Bennett there as the afterthought.
Yeah, and you know,
okay?
Steve
And they
Rosenfeld,
blocked
did
them
you
all
want
away.
to comment on
Gave
this?
us the opportunity where we are today.
Yeah.
Steve Rosenfeld, you want to comment on this, and then Ray?
Yes, I want to just respond to Joel. So Joel, I've heard from a lot of lawyers, former Justice Department voting section attorneys, that the current Justice Department has really been screwing this up badly. They did not follow up the letter they sent in mid-May to Arizona President Karen Fann, basically threatening them for mishandling the possible, removal of the ballots and transporting them and handling, breaking the chain of custody. Similar, there've been no, so you would expect if they write that letter and nothing happens, you go back into court very soon. Similarly, there've been no letters like that in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in Florida, in Texas, these other states, Wisconsin, Michigan. And so that's just something I've heard, and maybe people that are in your circles might be able to talk about that. It's really unfortunate. The other thing is that I have heard the same lawyers be very, very critical of the Democratic Party and Mark Elias for pursuing what became the Supreme Court case that gutted Section 2. And their main point is, unlike Thurgood Marshall in his day, the Democrats will just file suits over everything, even when they're told not to. And if some of these things go up on appeal to the Supreme Court and they don't have all the evidence there, they lose, and then we lose. So this is kind of out there too. I mean, I know this is a complicated environment and the world's not perfect, but these are supposed to be our representatives. And
yeah, it's amazing. And Steve, your reporting on this has been really good. Ray Lutz, did you want to jump in? We're almost out of recorded time. We're going to stay with this, but Ray, I want to make sure you got on the recording.
Okay. Well, I do think it's a pretty good question that Art did ask, and I think it's a good question about how did Doug Logan get hired? I still don't know the answer to that. I do think it has to do with who's providing the money for this. We heard it was $150,000 that the Senate paid. Now it's gone up to $9 million, something like that. And there's a lot of their operators, GOP operators, that are orchestrating this, and a lot of opportunists that are jumping forward now saying that they want audits. I don't think they really want them. They just want to act like they want them so that they get some points. Now, I just wanted to comment on what's going on, because we've been trying to monitor this, and I think it's super important to monitor audits of any kind. I don't care if you agree with it or not. If you think it's crazy, monitor it even more. Because if you don't monitor it and make sure that they're sticking to the facts, then they'll make stuff up. And so in this case, we had them use tally sheets and not enter them, not be transparent. We haven't seen any results yet from any of these tally sheets so that anybody can double check it. And now I think what's happened is that they have found that they're off. They don't know what's going on because the tallies were off. So they brought in these new counting machines, and they've been going through all of the ballots, recounting just not the votes on them, but just how many ballots there are, and trying to get that indexed into some of the other information about how many were in each batch and so forth. So I think that they discovered that since we were watching them, look, they were trying to get away with just providing 15 totals. There's only 5 things on the ballot. They were going to provide the totals from each of the 3 counters for those 5 things. And we said, not good enough. There are 10,000 some odd batches here. You should provide totals for every single batch so that we can check those batches to what the computer report says, not just the grand totals. Because otherwise what they'll do is they'll cherry pick, take all the high numbers for Biden or something and the low numbers for Trump and go, see, it came out this way because they were able to bias it. Without checking each batch, you can easily do that. And so we have to be on top of this. Look, I would be against this audit the way it's run, no question about it. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but also you can't, as John said, we can't turn a blind eye to it and just boycott it. We have to say, all right, we have to get involved. I really want to hand a round of applause to John for getting in there and trying to work with these guys is something that I wouldn't be able to do very well. He's been able to make friends with these people and work with them, and they're getting along with them just fine. This is great, and it's what we need to do in order to make sure that this doesn't go off course.
Well, I believe, we're almost, go ahead, Dave. Can you finish up and then I'll sign off and then we'll continue off not being recorded.
No, that's pretty much, I think John filled it in. Thanks for the
Yeah,
time.
so I believe, Art, you and others raised very valid questions at the beginning of this Arizona fiasco. The ninjas are just, it's not even a group. It's just a typical scam artist. The Republicans in the legislature wanted to prove that Trump had won the election and then had been stolen. The Republicans at the Board of Elections, certainly with tremendous guidance from John Brakey and Ray Lutz, and then Steve Rosenfeld's writing, have been willing to pursue the idea of actually doing an audit. What a concept. And then since these audits have not been common or well done, you guys really pioneered how to do a decent audit. And we're seeing this now as an issue in New York and elsewhere. So hopefully this whole miasma will lead us into a place where we can produce a document, a chain of events, of guidance, where real, important, reliable audits actually can be done going forward. What a concept. That's my idea, anyway, of a best case scenario. We're going to continue this discussion post-recording. I want to thank Mike Hirsch and Steve Caruso for doing their usual stellar job as engineers. Joel Siegel, my co-convener. We've gone for 90 minutes. We still have more than 60 people on with us. This has been the 58th Zoom call, Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Zoom call. And we are going to continue. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for those of you at PRN. And we'll sign off on the recording.